Hello, Class 4. Welcome to today's writing lesson on relative clauses again. The work that you did, some of you done yesterday, is really good. You seem to have a good understanding of relative clauses. I will go through it again today. If you missed it or if you're not quite sure, I'll recap what they are, because today's task is all about applying that knowledge. So you're going to write descriptions of your animals on your island, and each sentence today is going to include a relative clause. So let's have a look at our task. I'm just going to share my screen and I'll open the PowerPoint first. So here we go. So what are we learning to do today? We are learning to write sentences with relative clauses. So to do this, to be successful, the first thing you need to do is you need to show me that you can write a main clause. So you understand what a main clause is and that you can write one. After that, you're going to add some extra detail to the sentence using a clause starting with which. Now, which is a relative pronoun. So if it's got the word which or that, then you know that you're writing a relative clause because it's got the relative pronoun. And finally, you're going to make sure you've got a comma to separate the main clause from your relative clause. If that all sounds a bit scary, too much, don't worry, I'll go through each step now. So first of all, here's your island. We've described the plants in our last lesson. We're going to do the animals today, and then we've got our inhabitants, the people who live there. We'll probably do that tomorrow or possibly next week. So back to Blake Island. We've described our plants. We'll do the island inhabitants and the other information. Don't blow my words here. Another day. So today we're focusing on the animals. So here were my ideas. My island has got piranhas, bullet ants, giant salamanders, cassowary birds, fruit bats, polar bears, and snakes. I'm going to take the polar bears off because they live in a totally different climate to the rest of them, so we'll leave them off. So step one, what you need to do is you need to write a main clause about your animal. So step one, write a main clause about your animal. That could be as simple as there was a snake. Roz saw a bat. That would be a main clause. It makes sense on its own. It's got a verb and a subject in it. So if I go to your activity sheet today on Teacher Made, sentence number one, write a main clause about your animal. So I'm going to start nice and simple with just there was a bat. There it is, nice and simple. It's got the subject, there was a bat, and it was there. There was a bat. That's my main clause. That makes sense on its own. If I said to Mrs. Richardson, there was a bat, she would say, okay, fair enough. So that's step one done. I have written a main clause about your animal. I'll do a couple more. There was a bat. Roz saw piranhas. Ooh. How on earth do you spell piranhas? Doesn't look right either. I knew there was an H in there somewhere. Roz saw piranhas. And I don't know why I put it in the same box. Let's put that down here. So two sentences. Roz saw piranhas. Now you could do all of your main clauses, all 5 main clauses first if you want. So we've done a main clause. Let's see what our next step is. Our next step, step 2, is to add some extra detail about the animal using a phrase starting with which. This is called a relative clause. So let's go back to my Teacher Made. So a which. There was a bat. Let's put some extra information. Let's put some extra information using a relative clause. So there was a bat. There was a bat which had blood all over its face, which had blood all over its face. Roz saw piranhas that were swimming aggressively down the river. That was swimming aggressively down the river. Got boys and girls starting to come into class today. People watching the video, we've got Nathan here. Morning, Nathan. So I'm going to keep recording this video and teaching you while the children come in, and I'm hoping that they're going to be nice and quiet for me, aren't you? Brilliant. So step 2 is done. I've added a relative clause to my sentence. Step 3, make sure I've got a comma between my main clause and my relative clause. Oh, well, have I done that? There's the main clause. There was a bat. I've got a comma, and then it's my relative clause. So I'm done there. That's it. There was a bat. which had blood all over its face. Roz saw piranhas that were swimming aggressively down the river. Brilliant. So that would be enough. If you do that today, you've got a main clause, a relative clause. I'm happy. I'm over the moon. But I want you to see if you can add a front end adverbial and an adjective in as well today, just so it makes your sentence a bit more interesting. So where was the bat? Well, hanging in a tree. Hanging, oh, I'll delete the whole thing. Hanging from a branch, comma, there was a vampire bat, comma, which was covered in blood. Nice. So where were the piranhas? So when did she see them, or where? Front adverbial. When she looked closely, comma, Roz saw piranhas, saw giant piranhas that were swimming aggressively down the river. Brilliant. So you've got 5 sentences to do. Try and make sure they've got well, they have to have a main clause. So write the main clause first, then put your front adverbials, your adjectives, your relative clauses in. Once you've done it, I will give you feedback, and then if you've made any mistakes or if you need some help, I can give you a little bit of top tips and advice. Good luck.